Hi, my name is Nicole Ralston, and I'm a learning and productivity coach. And I'm really excited to be doing this Instagram live interview series with various experts in different fields that will hopefully support you while we're all, navigating working from home, being at home all the time, being stuck inside with our kids. So today I have therapist Jackie Shapin coming on, and she's going to talk about the role that therapy can play in helping you. And I'm hoping that this will shed some light on therapy, especially for people who have no experience with it. I know it can be a little bit daunting and overwhelming as somebody who's gone to therapy myself and was really, really scared to actually go to my first session or even admit that I needed therapy. I found it to be amazing. Like, it changed my life completely. I'm hoping that it can do the same for you. Well, welcome, Jackie. I just gave you a quick introduction. I don't know if you got a chance to see. To just go over for anybody who just joined, I'm interviewing therapist Jackie Shapin today, just about demystifying therapy. And if you were ever considered going to therapy, hopefully she can help answer some of your questions. So I'll give Jackie a minute to introduce herself. We actually connected in a bridal party and just hit it off. And there's Megan. Hi, Megan. Thank you to Megan for connecting us and getting us joined into that fabulous bridal party. So Jackie, I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit.
Thank you. So like she said, my name is Jackie Shapin. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in California. And like Nicole said, we met, something just fell. Technical error. So we met through our friend Megan, and I'm a therapist who loves talking to people, helping people. I have some specialties. We don't have to go into that today, but I specialize in working with clients with eating disorders, obsessive compulsive disorder, anxiety, depression, communication. But today I'm really excited to kind of hopefully reach out and talk to people that are afraid to go or have some no myths about therapy that aren't really true, so that everyone can get support.
Thank you so much. And that's what I also wanted to touch on. I don't actually have any diagnosed condition, so it was a little bit weird. I was like, I feel like I need a therapist, but I'm not sure what we're even going to do, or if I go, does that mean that there's something seriously wrong with me and that I'm going to be in therapy forever? And that wasn't my experience at all. Jackie is not my therapist, just by the way. But I saw my therapist actually for maybe just a few months, and this was 2 years ago now, and I actually haven't seen her since. I sent her an email the other day to say hi and that I'm still doing well. So that was my personal experience, and I just kind of wanted to start with that, Jackie. What are your goals when working with patients in general? Like, when I went in, I felt like, okay, she's going to know what's wrong with me and then just fix it, and then everything's going to magically be okay. And that turned out to not be the case at all. So when patients approach you, what exactly is the goal when you have a new patient or just any patient coming in?
So basically, when a client comes in, I first let them know that I am there for them. And I want to talk. First, I want to get to know them, because it's important to get to know someone from where they came from, what they're going through right now. But one main thing is I ask the client what their goals are. I ask them what brought them to therapy. So it's a bit of a collaboration, because I don't want to have an agenda when I come in and meet someone, because I want to be open for them and to help guide them. You brought up the diagnosis thing. So you do not have to have a clinical diagnosis to come to therapy. There is this huge book called the DSM, and that is where it talks about and lists a ton of different diagnoses. But a lot of people don't really go by that. That is kind of more helpful in a medical sense. It's like a medical model. So you don't have to have a diagnosis of some sorts to come to therapy. And also the idea of a diagnosis sounds very scary and clinical, but some diagnoses like anxiety or depression, there's certain criteria that you have to have in order to literally get a diagnosis. But some of those things we all struggle with sometimes, like with anxiety or depression, can be hopelessness or agitation or irritability, things that we all feel. That doesn't mean you necessarily have a diagnosis. A diagnosis has to have, you're looking at multiple different factors, from how many symptoms you have, how long you've had them, So I went off a little bit about the diagnosis thing, but you don't have to have that to come get support. You don't have to have any of that.
Yeah, so that's, I think, my question. I have a better idea now, but for somebody like me, so the reason why I ended up going to therapy was I just really felt angry all the time, and I couldn't figure out why, and it was making me nuts. And I was all of a sudden starting to like show those symptoms in my body. So I didn't have any experience with therapy. Nobody in my family did. I had a few friends who went to therapy, and they always spoke highly of it, but at the same time, I don't know why I was nervous to even ask them, like, so what exactly happens there? So I remember going to the office the first time, like I really hit a wall, and I was like, okay, I think this will be helpful. And if it's not, whatever, like I can go for a session. Like my therapist was very nice and like, you just come. And then if you don't like it, you don't have to come back. But I remember walking in going, okay, so what do we do now? Like, hi, I'm angry. Like, and then what? And so kind of, how do you start that relationship that you mentioned?
So the first couple of sessions are, maybe you experience this, a little bit different than the fifth and sixth ongoing session. The first couple of sessions, I really want to get to know the person. I let them have the floor a lot. But we kind of explore where those feelings are come from. A lot of people judge feelings. A lot of people put feelings in all or nothing box, like anger's bad and happy is good. And they also don't want to maybe share it because they think someone's going to judge them, or they're afraid that if they do bring out like the anger, that it's never going to end and they're going to blow up and become this violent person. But there is such a range of emotions and a range of how strong emotions can be. And I think it's so important for everyone to know that emotions pass. People think that they're going to have them forever if they open up and talk about them, that they pass. So to answer about anger, I mean, the first thing is to get you comfortable with anger and learn about your beliefs around anger. You know, why do you think anger is bad? Or do you think it's a problem? And what are you angry about? And what feelings might be underneath anger? Because a lot of times anger is what we call a secondary emotion. So underneath anger, a lot of times is fear and or hurt. So fear and hurt drive a lot of anger. And so I think when you go to therapy, you gain insight into understanding what is the anger about, where does it come from, and it's also connected to all these other emotions.
So maybe if we could just do a little role play on this, just so people, if they've never been to therapy, what it would look like. Because seriously, like when I walked in, I was like, okay, so I'm here and, I'm just really angry. And I don't know what to do about it. So like, how would you start that conversation?
Like when someone first walks in?
Yeah, when someone first walks in, if I sat down and I just told you that, like, what exactly then happens after that? I think in my head, I remember going like, okay, she's going to like see through me and see exactly like, I don't know what I'm thinking. Like you're going to be some kind of mind reader. So like, what would the next question you would ask, I guess, be just to give an example of how maybe a session might look?
Well, I think I'd first say that therapists are not psychics. We can't read minds. A lot of people joke about that, or they actually think that, and not true at all, which is why we have to talk to you and get to know what's going on. I personally, every therapist is going to be different, and there's so many different types of therapy, and we all come from a different background. But mine is mainly humanistic, which is basically unconditional positive regard and compassion and really building rapport. So I would probably first ask you how you're feeling right now. So you're coming wanting to talk about anger, but first let's check in and see how you're feeling now. Do you have physical sensations, any emotions that you're feeling? Maybe you're nervous about being here. So I'd first want to just get you in the present moment to see like what it's like when you check in with the present. Because a lot of times when you're feeling anger, it might come from the past or a worry about the future.
So what are some tools, I guess, then that people can use to check in with their feelings? I think you mentioned, which I think is really important, feeling like it's not going to end. Like I remember being in my therapist session once where I'm like crying and crying and like, oh my God, I'm going to be crying all day, or I'm never going to leave her office because I can't. And I obviously did. So like how do you help people through that then when they're especially nervous about feeling their feelings, especially strong ones?
So I think a couple things. I think one is when someone's feeling very emotional, it's hard for them to also at the same time think rationally and logically. So I think, a couple things I might point out is having them notice, when you first came to this office, you weren't crying or you weren't angry. And then you talked to me about it, and then the emotions came up. But you've also felt this way before, so you know it's going to end. And I want you to use this as a safe place where you can trust and take those risks to see that, yeah, you might still feel angry when you leave. This place isn't, we're not always going to wrap it up with a bow. But sitting through that emotion will eventually let it pass. And if you fight that emotion, it only makes it stick around longer.
That's interesting. I think maybe that kind of leads to my next question. So my therapy sessions ended, I was kind of surprised, oh, they're done. So what can people expect coming out of a single session? And maybe how many sessions do typically people need to work through an emotion like that one? Like that one for me, just again, to use that as an example, we eventually came down to the root cause. My therapist gave me some tools to use at home. So, and I wasn't expecting that. Again, when I went in, I just had no idea. So what can somebody expect walking out of a single session? And then how long will it take to maybe work through something? And I'm sure there's a range. So just based on your experience.
So to answer the first question, what can someone expect when they leave? Depending on if it's their first session or not, a very common occurrence when someone first leaves their first session is to worry and feel like they overshared or shared too much. It's super common to feel that way. And I want to share that so people know that that's normal and it's also not true. I think if you leave a session feeling like you shared too much, you probably felt really safe and you probably felt, supported, or you were holding that stuff in for so long. So sometimes people can leave feeling a little bit like, oh my God, what did I just share? Some people will feel good when they leave. They'll feel like, oh man, I feel relief. I'm kind of motivated to continue to do this work. Some people might leave feeling like, I hated that. I did not like talking about my feelings. I did not like the attention on me. Feeling that way doesn't mean that therapy is not going to work for you or that you had a bad experience. It means that you did something that might be new for you, something that you're not used to. So a lot of times therapy can be very uncomfortable because you're talking about things and experiencing things that you normally maybe would avoid.
So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different reactions when you leave. Some people go to therapy and they really don't, they don't get excited to go because it's uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad. Or some people feel really good leaving because, this is therapy is a space for you to, get, 45 minutes to an hour of time to just let go and have it be a place to just get support. And some people don't, like we talked about, don't necessarily have to have a mental illness to do that. I mean, we're so busy, we're so stressed that there's nothing bad that's going to come out of going. Your second question was, the length of time.
How long do you normally work with patients? Again, I understand there's a spectrum, but what could people expect in terms of working with a therapist, timeline-wise?
So again, it's hard to answer that. It really varies. I think if you're coming in with, that you're coming in because of a experience that's the one thing you want to work on is some experience that was upsetting. I think if that's all you're targeting or all you're talking about, maybe a couple of months. But a lot of times when you go in for maybe one thing, you realize it's really connected to a lot more. So it really varies. Some people like going long term. Again, it's a place to check in. Some people really want to figure this thing out and leave. And I think, if you can give yourself a couple months before you, give up or decide you don't like it, I think that's good. I had a client who came in and she said, I'm going to come in twice no matter what, because I know after the first time I'm going to feel uncomfortable and I'm going to make myself again. So I think, giving yourself 2 times and then if you can stick it out, give it a chance. Yeah. But yeah, I'm sorry I don't have a
No, I mean, that makes sense. I just wanted to hear your experience. But yeah, that's good to know, especially for people who haven't tried it before. And I love that share about, willing to give it another shot and realizing how uncomfortable it is if you don't do these kinds of things normally. So just on that note, do you have any tips for people right now to practice practice this kind of self-care at home? Like if you're somebody who isn't used to feeling their feelings and maybe just want like a tool that you might offer to clients or anybody that they can practice themselves, what's a way that somebody can kind of practice starting to feel those feelings if they're not quite ready to go to therapy yet?
Okay, I'm excited. I have so many little tools. So one thing I talk about a lot is grounding. Grounding exercises it's something that helps you, again, make yourself go into the present moment. And I talked about present moment earlier, but a lot of times we are worrying about the future or ruminating about the past, and we aren't sitting in our bodies and actually feeling what's really going on. So a couple grounding exercises that are very simple, and some people don't practice them because they seem so simple, but they work, is first of all, planting your feet on the floor. Just putting both your feet on the floor. A lot of times people don't even notice that they're sitting cross-legged or they're curled up, and they might feel a little bit disconnected. So putting your feet on the floor and noticing your feet on the floor can ground you. Another technique that a lot of therapists call 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is you are going to name 5 things that you see in the room. Might sound weird, but literally saying like phone, book, computer, water, clock. And then 4 things that I always mix this up. So 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch. So touching different things. So touching this chair, this wood, touching different materials.
Like trying it right now.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So when you touch different things in your surrounding, again, you can't help but be there.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear. So you can close your eyes, or you can just listen and notice if you hear a car or little buzzing in your room. 2 things that you can smell, and then 1 thing that you can taste. And a lot of times taste or something, but
that makes sense of why it's only 1.
yeah. So by the time you get to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you'll notice like, oh, I'm in my room, and you're not really thinking as much about what you were ruminating about. So that's how you can ground yourself. In terms of feeling in your body, you sometimes don't, a lot of people struggle with naming emotions. And one thing that's helpful with that is before you even name the emotion, noticing what you feel physically. And when I say physically, I mean, do you feel hot? Do you feel cold? Can you feel your heartbeat? Do you feel tension anywhere in your body? Are you shaking anywhere? Is there any stress? Some people feel a lot of emotions in their stomach or in their chest. Some people feel, with anger, like tension in their hands, or really hot or getting red. So checking in with how you feel during different parts of the day can kind of help you notice if you're even feeling something.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's really helpful. But I really like that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 especially. And then, like you said, naming it in your body. I'm that way too. And that was one of the tools that my therapist taught me, where I couldn't figure out the word for it, but I could tell where I was feeling it. Right. And I do want to get to some questions. If anybody has a question, feel free to drop it in the comment box. But one of the questions that we got before this interview was, how do you find a therapist? And how do you find one that you click with? Because as Jackie has talked about a lot, if you're just coming in, a therapist is a relationship you're building with your therapist. So obviously, you need to find one that you want to build a relationship with. So do you have some tips and tools about finding them, and then finding one that, you feel like you're going to resonate with?
Yeah, so a couple of tools for finding a therapist. One website that is really helpful that most therapists are on is psychologytoday.com. And psychologytoday.com is... it's basically a directory of a ton of therapists. You can filter by state, by what you're coming in for. You can also filter by insurance. So if you are someone who wants to use your insurance, which is understandable, there is like a box you can check on psychologytoday.com that shows therapists that are in network or, take insurance. So psychologytoday.com is a really, really good one. Googling, asking different people that you know if they recommend any therapists. You can also ask if you have a professional in your life, like a doctor or someone that's in the medical field. You might be able to ask them if they know someone that, is recommended. But again, when you're looking for a therapist, it's important to first check out their website. So if you go on Psych Today and let's say you want to go for eating disorder, if you're struggling with an eating disorder, if you go on Psych Today or you go on their website and they list like 50 specialties, that is a red flag. So that's why before you just go in and call someone, you want to kind of look around, check their website, see what they're about, see if you connect or resonate with what they're saying. You might want to call them and talk to them on the phone to see kind of how you feel. But again, make sure you do a little research before you just, go in and meet someone, because you don't want to take that time and then right off the bat notice that it's not gonna work. In terms of it feeling like a good fit, this one's a little bit difficult because kind of like I said, there is growth in feeling discomfort. So there's like a line between feeling uncomfortable because it's new and then feeling uncomfortable because you just don't get a good vibe from this person, So you want to feel comfortable with them. You want to get that vibe, like they care about me. I can talk to them. They're interested. Therapy is not about getting advice or being told what to do. So some people will leave feeling like it wasn't good because that person didn't help them or tell them something to do. But our job is not to give advice. Our job is to be there with you and support you and be curious and ask things or point things out that we might notice. So again, like a good fit isn't necessarily someone that just gives you this magic button that gives you the answer, but use your gut, trust your instincts. If it's discomfort because there's something you don't really feel comfortable with them, that's different than like, I feel so uncomfortable because I've never been to therapy before.
That's really good advice. And speaking from finding a therapist myself, I'm with you. Like when I first met her, I was just like, oh, wow, she's just such a warm and caring person that I knew that I liked her. But like you said, the first couple sessions were a little bit uncomfortable sharing. And even some of the later ones I had were uncomfortable because, like you said, you're sharing very vulnerable parts of you. But I always thought that like she cared about me. So I didn't, I would keep going. And I never felt pushed either. So I think that maybe, if anybody's looking for a therapist, like you shouldn't, like she said, there's no advice, like, she gave me tools, but not necessarily advice. And she wasn't pushy. So, those are some things that like, I personally, if I felt like I was being pushed or anything, I probably wouldn't, go back. So, in case you're wondering what some tips about finding a therapist for yourself. I'm going to just scroll really quick to see if anybody else had questions.
To your point about pushing, I think in the beginning, it's important that you don't feel pushed. But depending on what you need, you might later on want a therapist who's there going to like challenge you.
Okay, that makes sense. Challenging, I feel like, is different than being like, pushy. Yes. Yeah, that's a good point to bring up, especially because it is hard to share those things and you probably do need to be prodding somewhat. The other question I had for you to kind of wrap up our chat is right now, you can't really go to a therapist's office. I mean, maybe some people are offering, I'm not sure if it's an essential service, but I know that you are offering teletherapy right now. So how is that working for you? And what can people expect from teletherapy?
I'm pleasantly surprised. I normally do in-person sessions. Teletherapy is new to me, and I've been really enjoying it. A lot of people question if it's going to be as like effective, and sometimes it's more effective because you are in the comfort of your own home. You don't have to get stressed out by commuting. A lot of times, because there is like this barrier in a way, it's like the screen, you're not really with them. Sometimes you feel even more comfortable opening up and sharing things that you might not have opened up in person. It's also really helpful for those people that can't get around or don't have the time to get to someone. So I've really been enjoying teletherapy, and it's super easy. For mine, you basically sign up, you sign a consent form, and then you get a link each session that just basically opens up this platform. So you don't even have to really download anything.
Oh, awesome.
You can also use your phone, which is great. So that's really easy. I have some people that don't have a lot of privacy, and so they do it in their car on their phone because their kids are inside, or they can't get away.
Yes, that makes sense.
You want to make sure that you have a private place. But it's been really great, and since all of us are kind of quarantining and are inside a lot, it's making it really, really helpful for people to get support, even though they can't leave.
Yes, I love that. And yeah, right now it is challenging, and that card tip is actually really useful. I don't have to remember that for just taking phone calls with my kids around. So I, want to thank you for joining us and sharing all of this great info. And just where can people find you if they're wanting to get some teletherapy?
So you can find me. My Instagram is at Jackie Shapin Therapy, and my website is JackieShapinTherapy.com. And you can find me on my website. You can Google me, Jackie Shapin, JackieShapin. And, you can send me a message on Instagram. You can email me, call. If you need support finding someone that isn't in California, you can also let me know, and I can try to help. But that's how to find me. And then on my Instagram, there's also a lot of different skills and tools that I do talk about. So Instagram is not therapy. But if you're struggling and, you're still looking for a therapist, there are a lot of good tools on there that you can read about and ask me about.
That's great. Thank you so much for offering that. And I'm going to go ahead and save this conversation. So if you came in the middle of it, I'll make sure to post it on my stories. I'm going to try to share it with Jackie as well, so she has it on her Instagram. So hopefully this helps demystify therapy a little bit and give you that little nudge if you have been thinking about going to a therapist. I hope you can see what a wonderful space it can be to feel your feelings. I called my therapist my feelings teacher because I honestly didn't really know how to do it until I went to a therapist. So hopefully you find that to be a safe space to be a little vulnerable, because it's a challenging time right now, right, Jackie?
Yes, yeah.
Well, thank you, everybody. Take care, Jackie. Thank you again for spending this time with me.
Of course.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.